Through the years, Modern Manna has been dedicated to sharing the message of salvation through Jesus Christ and educating the people of the health principles that lead to a vibrant, healthful life.
Have your pen and paper ready as David Hall presents Cellercise, 10 minutes a day for a healthier you.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce a friend, a brother, another health warrior, David Hall. He does a demonstration on the Cellerciser, but more than that, he's a Christian. He believes in the Lord. He loves the Lord with all his heart. And he's on a mission. David and I talk pretty regularly. He calls me up on the phone, or I call him up, and he just says, "Brother, you've been on my mind." And many times when he calls, the Lord's given me the same thoughts and the same impressions. The other day when you phoned me, I think it was last week on Sunday, you said, "The Lord just impressed me to call you, and you had something I needed." In fact, I'm going to show it tonight, right? During my demonstration. That's right. We better not forget that.
That's right.
So anyway, David loves the Lord, as I have said. He's very energetic. When I was done with this last presentation, he ran up here and he says, "Brother, you got so much energy." And I look at him and say, "Well, I wish I had as much as you do," because this guy is packed with energy. He can do things on this Cellerciser that I couldn't even dream of. But, I want you to teach these people, show these people, inspire these people, motivate these people, give them the energy that God has given you, and I welcome you to our home again.
Thank you, brother. Thanks, Danny. Don't go away. I've often said, in order to have what we have not, we must first become what we are not. As we become what we are not, then what we have not becomes a natural manifestation of what we have become. But in order to become what we are not, we must see ourselves not as we are. We must see conditions not as they are. We must see each other not as we are. We must see ourselves as we can be. We must become people of vision. As we become people of vision, it becomes a passion. And when we have passion, we become instruments of creation. And that process we've seen in Danny, and Sharice, and Ted, and all those behind Modern Manna. And I'm grateful. Thanks for having me a part of it. Thanks, Danny. I love you too. I hit it off. I'm excited. I did it again. Okay, is it me? Last year I stood up here and I shared some concepts and ideas. And those concepts and ideas have changed the lives of a great many people here in this group, in this audience. We're going to have a chance to hear from some of them a little bit later. But not to miss anything, I want everybody here to understand something. If you have issues concerning your immune system, allergies, sinus problems, poor circulation, weight control, balance problems, bladder control, bone and joint, heart problems, lack energy, have elimination problems, back problems, cellulite, knee and hip problems, toxicity, there's hope. 9 years ago, I was an insurance agent with Mass Mutual in Newport Beach, California. I had a double chin, a little belly. If we have the before picture, we can put that on the screen. I had rounded shoulders. I grew up without breast milk. Whatever it was that they had synthetic, that's what I lived on as I was growing up. I grew up in cereals, Trix, and Captain Crunch. And when fluoridated water came out, and it was a big thing initially, we were the first on the block to have it, and I drank fluoridated water. We had TV tray dinners, and I ate all the aluminum TV trays. That's what I grew up on. I had chuck steaks. I'd eat a 2-pound chuck steak. By the time I was 18 years old, I'd had pneumonia several times. I grew up with ear problems. I had my tonsils were removed when I was 4. I had hemorrhoids. I was not in very good condition. In 1991, I was poisoned with a pesticide poisoning that wiped out the right side of my lymphatic system. I went to the doctor. I could lift my arm up, and it was like a net. Everything would pull. It felt like something was tearing inside there. Well, they had sprayed the apartment complex the night before, unbeknownst to me, and I'd slept with my nose breathing in one of the corners of the areas that they'd had the pesticide spray. I went to the doctors. They said there's nothing they could do. For the next 2 years, I had these very large lesions coming out of my shoulders, my neck, and my face. The liver was shot, and the skin color was a mess. I was a mess. I didn't know if I'd be around much longer. It was at that point I was inspired, I believe, by God to develop a program that totally and completely turned my life around. Ladies and gentlemen, what would it mean to you if your body consisted solely of well-adjusted, capable cells whose ability to carry out their functions was greatly enhanced? How would that make you feel? How would that help you perform? And what quality of life would that allow you to lead now and 10, 20, 50, or even 100 years from now? Well, that's the premise behind the wellness program that I've created, which I call Cellercise, the 4 C's toward optimum health. It has 3 very important parts. Unfortunately, the first 3 parts we don't have time in this presentation to go over. But when my book is finished, I'm going to have Danny review it, and if he wants me back, we're going to talk about the first 3 parts of Cellercise. But what we're going to be talking about right now is the 4th part. It's the part that probably had the greatest result in changing my overall health. We have people here today who came up to me yesterday. They were here last year. Lady had chronic hip problem, disabling hip problem, back problems, knee problems. She's going to come up. She's 59. Her health and her body is totally turned around. We've got a gentleman who called me up from this show last year. When he was at the show, he came by and he said, "David, I've got a chronic hip problem. I'm on pain medication. I really don't have any movement in there. Can I do your program?" I said, "Can you walk?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Well, then you can do my program." Several weeks later, he called me up. He said, "David, the pain medication didn't work, but after five days on your program, the pain is completely gone. After 9 days, I can walk up and down the stairs again." He had a new lease on life. I've got a lady, if we can show the other picture again on the screen, I've got a lady who heard me on the radio. She picked up my program, sight unseen. At the time, she was 80 pounds. She was very weak. She had a lot of health problems. She got the program, used it for 3 months. She calls up the Seattle Times, and she starts to tell them all about this Cellercising program. They didn't know what she was talking about. She continued to talk to them, telling them about how it changed her life, and they said, "Well, how old are you?" And she says, "I'm 94. They went and they said, "Where do you live?" They went and did a full featured article on her, put her on the front cover. This is just in March of this year. On the front cover of the paper, talking about the benefits of Cellercising. Last month, I got back to the office, and I had a letter written for me from her. And she says, "Dear Dave, may I call your attention to the wealth of publicity that you might use to enhance the Cellerciser through this article in the Seattle Times. It expresses how I feel about what it has done for me. I really think it has saved my life. After being very ill, I cannot seem to get better. It was most discouraging. One evening, your voice came over the radio telling about the Cellerciser. Immediately, I knew it was for me. On September 29th, 2000, it was delivered to my home. There's been so much interest in the Cellerciser since the article was printed that the Seattle Times has had more requests for copies of that paper and duplications of the article than of any other it has ever printed." This gentleman here has his own television program. His name is Nick Fry. This last year, he says, he's writing to my secretary, he says, "Dear Jerry, I cannot fully express my delight and amazement with the Cellerciser. Initially, I looked at it with some skepticism, but thought it would make an interesting piece for my television show, especially with Dave's individual energy. I was not, however, expecting such a life-altering personal experience. I've come from 215 pounds, 24% fat, to 180 pounds, 13% with visible loss of girth, but increase in lean muscle. The overall effects of both body image and lifestyle have been astounding. He takes it with him wherever he goes. It's become his personal friend." This lady here, 86, they were going to take her feet off. Her doctor said that she's got old age onset diabetes. Her toes were sticking together, and sores were developing between her toes. She was very fragile. While she was here, she began jumping on my Cellerciser. It had a stabilizer bar, and she was able to briskly walk in place for about 2 minutes each day. When she came to my home 10 days before, my husband and I each took her arm and helped her walk down the walkway to my home. When she left, she slowly walked halfway up my walk, rested on the bench, and continued to the car on her own. Her balance and her confidence has improved considerably. I sent a Cellercise and a stabilizer bar home with my mom, and she's continued using it 2 to 3 minutes a day, 4 days a week. Last week I asked her how her feet were. She said, I think I'm as good as I've ever been. Is there anybody here over 7 years old? Listen carefully to the question. Is there anybody here over 7 years old? No, there isn't. Cells don't get old. They're always replacing themselves, but they get weak. And when cells get weak, body parts start to get weak as well. When we lose circulation, hardening of the arteries, the number one degenerative disease, then we start to develop the symptoms of the aging process. That can be avoided. When we increase circulation, we strengthen the cells, which are constantly being replaced. I'm living testimony of that. 9 years ago, I told you a little bit about what my condition was. I had a yoga instructor come by several years ago when I was in Pasadena. She said, David, I've grown more in strength and flexibility in 6 months of your Cellercise program than I had in 20 years as a yoga instructor. I thought, well, that's pretty exciting. So I remembered it, put it in the back of my brain, and I was down in Texas, and this yoga instructor comes by, and I immediately pulled out what I thought would be kind of exciting to them, and I said, hey, I've got a program that this other yoga instructor told me that had given her more strength and flexibility in just 6 months. Well, it didn't go over too well. Okay. She commenced to challenge me. She says, I don't believe you. She said, can you take your hand, put it over your head, can you put it behind the ball of your right foot and stand there like this? I said, like this? And she said, yes. I said, well, yeah, I can do that. I don't know what it all means, but she said, all right, can you take your hand, put it over your head, can you put it by the inside of the left foot, stand there with your right foot over your head this way? I said, like this? She said, yeah. I said, okay, I can do that. Then she gave me another one, but she wouldn't demonstrate it. She said, can you touch your knee to the ground and stand up again? And we were on a cement floor, and I said, I don't know. I hadn't tried it. So I went down, touched the knee to the ground, stood up. Yeah, I can do that. Then I gave her one. I said, can you take your leg, stick it out in front of you? I want you to sit down, and I want you to stand up again. She couldn't do it. She got a Cellerciser. I do a 10-minute-a-day routine. I do not lift any weights whatsoever. My daughter is here. She'll testify of that. She's in my before picture. She's 17 now, or will be very shortly. There's no weightlifting involved at all. Every area of the body that you see is tight, is toned, but it's not by lifting weight. Since we're all made up of cells, about 75 trillion of them, according to Dr. Arthur C. Guyton, MD, in his book Medical Physiology, doesn't it stand to reason that if each one of your individual cells were healthier, that you would also be healthier? This is a participatory meeting, so you can say yes. Yes. Doesn't it also stand to reason then that if each one of your individual cells were stronger, then your body parts and functions would also be stronger? Does that make sense? Okay, what I'm about to share with you right now is not science fiction. It's science fact. But this is not the exercise of the past. I call it the exercise of the future made available today, or exercise at the cellular level. And we all know what exercise at the muscular level has been. In fact, the current methodology of exercise teaches us that in order to become stronger, we apply weight or stress to a certain part or function of the body over and over until that part, function, or muscle becomes stronger. Is that true? And with that definition, the fitness industry has capitalized on it because there's a lot of body parts to go around. I want you to raise your hand if you've ever purchased one. Nod your head if you recognize one. But items like the wedge, abdominal board, rower, ski toner, porta bike, fitness climber, stairmaster, health rider, Nordic track, Schwinn Airdyne, life cycle, life rower, stomach cruncher, thigh master, ab blaster, soloflex, treadmill, cyclones, body gyms, total gyms, torso track, bowflex, the list goes on and on. You see, as long as we as an American public continue to buy into the current methodology of exercise, I think we can all rest assured every 6 months or so, the fitness industry is going to find another piece of exercise equipment and package it just a little differently to motivate us to add to an ongoing collection, because that's how they make their money. And yet every single piece of exercise equipment I just introduced you to, without any exception, is based upon the exact same premise. They all work by applying weight or stress to a certain part or function of the body over and over until that part or function adapts by becoming stronger. And those body parts and functions, ladies and gentlemen, are all made up of cells. This is a cell. This is the best we could do. Okay. Anytime you apply weight to a muscle, you're simply causing the cells of that muscle tissue to expand and contract with weight against the cell membrane. The increase of weight on the cell membrane causes that cell to fortify its membrane with more protein to compensate for the increased amount of weight, because the cell doesn't want to rupture. But the cell doesn't care where the increase of weight comes from. It doesn't care how sophisticated the equipment is. So suppose there was one exercise that would revolutionize the way we think of exercise by redefining it. An exercise that would apply weight to every cell of your body over 100 times a minute, strengthening all of your muscles all at the same time, but it would go well beyond that. It would reduce body fat, firm your legs, thighs, hips, and buttocks, strengthen your arms, increase your agility, improve balance, rhythm, timing, dexterity, hand-eye coordination, provide an aerobic activity for your cardiovascular system, and rejuvenate your body when you're tired. But it would go well beyond that. It'd be a program that's been featured in numerous health magazines, books, and articles as being effective in helping to lower high blood pressure, helping to reverse hardening of the arteries, the #1 degenerative disease, helping to lower elevated cholesterol and triglyceride levels, stimulating the thyroid, the adrenals, and the endocrine system, detoxifying the liver, improving kidney circulation, digestion, elimination process, increasing circulation between the bones and joints, increasing oxygen blood flow to the brain. It's being used by a number of ophthalmologists today to help revitalize vision. It's a program that includes an isometric for toning the body, but it doesn't tone from the outside in. It tones from the inside out. You see, when muscles get weak, they sag, don't they? When the internal organs get weak, what do? You can see that in my before picture. They start to drop. They start to sit down here. We think that's normal. It's just a weakness within the body because we're not putting weight on it anymore. This helps to lift, tighten, and tone from the inside. As an isometric, it's an isotonic. It is weight-bearing, but we don't limit the weight to any one part of the body. We're putting it on the entire body over 100 times each minute, strengthening muscles and bones. It's calisthenic. I'm going to show you in my 10-minute-a-day routine how to strengthen the thighs, the knees, the hips, the buttocks, the waist, the stomach, the arms underneath the chin. And it's an aerobic program all incorporated into one. Best of all, it can be done in 10 minutes a day in the convenience of your own home, at the office, or while you travel, and you don't have to change your clothes and you don't have to break out into a sweat in order to enjoy its benefits. Does that sound too good to be true? Yeah, it would be if we were talking about the current methodology of exercise. But we're not. We're talking about a whole new methodology of exercise in a program I call Cellercise, 75 trillion cells flexing over 100 times a minute. Now, a basic understanding of how all exercise affects the body will help us to better understand Cellercise. I'd like to propose that the common denominator of all exercise is opposing the gravitational pull of the earth or creating some sort of a resistance. Let's examine this statement. If I were to lie down and do push-ups, like Danny was doing the other day, what is the force that I have to push away from to lift my body up? It's gravity. If I'm doing leg lifts, what force do I have to oppose? Pull-ups, sit-ups, it's the same thing. We can apply the concept to the accepted aerobic activities of walking, jogging, and running. When I take my center of balance, which is located right about here, and it used to be right about here. Some of you can relate to that, huh? As I move that center of balance forward, I feel the force of gravity pulling down on me, causing me to take a step where I'd land on my nose. We can apply the concept of weightlifting. Weightlifting is simply taking a mass of something and moving it away from gravity over and over. Now, as far as the body is concerned, do you think it cares how sophisticated the equipment is? Doesn't matter whether it's connected with pulleys, fulcrums, wheels, arms, cables, chains, or rubber bands. See, it's at the end of the cable, the chain, or the rubber band that you have the weight or resistance, and it's the weight or resistance on the cells that cause the muscles to get firmer and stronger. Swimming's a great exercise, except for the chlorine, which kills you. Just does it a little bit at a time. Literally does. But still, what is it that pulls down? What is the force that pulls down on the water molecules, making them dense enough to create the resistance necessary to allow us to move through the water? Everybody. Gravity. So you see the common denominator then of all exercise is opposing the gravitational pull of the earth or creating some sort of a resistance. And if that's the case, then all I need to do to become stronger is to learn how to stand heavier. Like this. No, that doesn't do it. But I am going to show you a way that you can stand heavier over 100 times each minute. The key to Cellercise was given to us as early as 1911 by Albert Einstein. It was he who observed that the human body could not tell the difference between the forces of acceleration, deceleration, and gravity. Well, we understand gravity, so let's consider a moment the forces of acceleration and deceleration, and let's admit these forces exist. They have the same effect on any body, because all bodies are made up of cells, and they pretty much adapt the same way when challenged. Anybody have a Ferrari? I didn't think so. If you step, but you have a car. If you were to step on the accelerator of the car really hard, some cars, you will feel the weight of acceleration pushing your back or your body backwards. That's weight on the body. When you come around the corner and you hit the brake or the decelerator and you feel your body being pushed forward into the seat belt, well, that's a weight on the body too. And Albert Einstein said the body can't tell the difference between those two forces of weight on them. Well, we generally experience the forces of acceleration and deceleration horizontally, whereas we experience the force of gravity vertically, which means we can't go around stopping and starting to get a good exercise. But what if we could line the forces of acceleration and deceleration up with gravity and combine all three forces into one? We'd have a whole new methodology of exercise. Three forces working on the body instead of one. All we would need is a piece of equipment that would allow us to do it. Guess what? I happen to have that piece of equipment. I call it the portable easy bounce Cellerciser. This has got a unique history. I first introduced it as a soft bounce rebounder in 1995. I don't call my unit a rebounder anymore. I don't want it equated with rebounders. There's too many bad rebounders on the market today. I call it an easy bounce Cellerciser because we exercise cells, every cell of the body. And it's a unique piece of equipment. I'll share it with you in just a moment. To open it, it's real simple. I grab the Velcro, pull it apart. Unit slides right out. That's what it looks like. Don't confuse this with a toy. That's not a toy. I'll explain the difference now. Lie the unit on the ground so it looks like a taco and simply pop open the taco. Literally, in less time than it takes me to put on a pair of running shoes, I'm ready to begin Cellercising. Now, many people mistakenly believe they can pick up a unit like this at some Sears, Kmart, or sporting goods store. Nothing could be further from the truth. My dad found that out in 1995 when he tried to do my exercises on a typical rebounder and he was permanently disabled. The abrupt jarring effect is too severe. This mat material, for example, is not made out of canvas, nylon, or plastic, like you find on typical mini trampolines. The canvas, nylon, and plastic mats can stretch, rot, and mildew. And when the mat material is stretching under the feet are constantly sinking and doing this every time you land. Pronating. It causes ankle problems, knee problems, and lower back problems. This is made out of a very special polypropylene that's been put under nearly 200 tons of pressure. That's a lot of weight. You can leave it out in the sun, the rain, the snow, the wind. It doesn't matter. It's weather resistant. They make swimming pool covers out of it now. It's UV resistant. The reason I use it is because I'm altering the angle of my body in different positions. And I need to make absolutely sure my foot is going to be supported. And that's what this does. When the mat has a tendency to stretch on you, it'll throw you off in the opposite direction. You land anywhere on this mat, it lifts you straight up. The springs are the large tapered spring. Now, Christian, if we can put that, here it is. This is what 95% of the units on the market use, these little tube springs. The little tube springs, they were never designed after NASA's research. They put all the weight on the two ends of the spring. They stretch only a little bit at the end of the stretch. They come to an abrupt stop or jar. The jarring effect is so severe it can break the spring as well as damage the person using it. You don't have enough movement up and down. All of NASA's research was done on trampolines to create a G-force on the body without a jarring effect. You bet. 1995, I introduced a large tapered spring. It keeps the weight in the middle of the spring where it's very soft. The excess weight is absorbed through the gradual taper, allowing the body to gently decelerate and accelerate without ever coming to an abrupt stop or jar. So what you have is this pumping action up and down, which opens up the blood vessels and the circulatory systems without creating a stress or jar on the body to restrict it. The legs are 2 inches longer to compensate for the springs. The springs do not connect directly into the frame. You know, we've all been introduced to all these various different types of exercise equipment. Many of them break down or just aren't used after a period of time. I designed this to be the last piece of exercise equipment we ever need to invest in. I drill 36 holes through the frame, put steel pins through each hole, and connect the springs to the pins so the frame will last virtually forever. The legs don't screw on like most units because anything that screws on can also get screwed off or stripped, stuck, lost. These fit over a steel post or held into place by heavy-duty piano wire. Even the rubber tips aren't rubber. They're much stronger polymer substance. We've never worn one out. Okay, I'm ready to demonstrate Cellercise. I just need to change into my Cellercise outfit, so if you'll all pardon me for just a moment. Thank you. As I stand here, I weigh approximately 160 pounds, or 1G. That is the force of gravity. But as I start to move just this high, a remarkable thing happens. I no longer weigh 160 pounds at the bottom of the bounce. I now weigh closer to 200 pounds, or 1.25 Gs. And we can measure that with a G meter. Several of you know what a G meter is because you were here last year. But if I were to take a G meter, does everybody, you know what a G meter is? Many of you have one in your own home. You get up in the morning, walk into the bathroom, step on it, look down at the needle, and some of you even call it by name. OG. Okay, that's your G meter. If I were to take that G meter or bathroom scale, put it on the Cellerciser, and jump up and down on it, what would happen to the needle on the scale? You bet, it's going to fluctuate up and down, registering the greatest amount of weight at the bottom of the bounce. Well, we know that 160 pounds comes from the weight of gravity. So where does the other 25% of increased weight on the body come from? Anybody care to guess? You got it. Forces of acceleration and deceleration. You see, as I jump up and come down, I load the springs. That's known as the force of deceleration. The loaded springs then push me back up. That's known as the force of acceleration. Whenever you add the forces of acceleration and deceleration on the same vertical plane as gravity, you end up creating an entirely new G-force that all the cells are constantly being exposed to. So the question then becomes, what happens to the cells of the body when you alter or change the G-force? And the answer was well illustrated by NASA. NASA discovered when the astronauts are in outer space for just 2 weeks, they can lose up to 15% of their bone and muscle mass, simply because the cells do not have the weight of gravity to contend with. Now, all other exercises are simply trying to increase the weight. Even doctors know bones and muscles heal faster and grow stronger when exposed to some stress. That's the idea behind the walking cast. Well, I stand here on the Cellerciser and I start to move up and down. How many cells in my body are moving up and down with me? Thank you, all 75 trillion. Which means every single cell in my body is being exposed to an increase of weight over and over every time I come down at the bottom of the bounce. Now, if we were to ask any physical therapist, what is a formula for strength? They're going to tell us it's stress times repetition. You stress a certain part or function of the body over and over until it adapts by becoming stronger. Well, since I'm putting this body under weight over and over every time I come down at the bottom of the bounce, what are the cells of this body going to have to do to compensate for that constant weight that's on them? Get stronger. Tell me, do they have a choice? Isn't that exciting? I can stand there watching TV. I did when I first started. I can be on the telephone. As I'm jumping up and down, my body has one of two options. It's either going to get shorter because of all the weight I keep putting on it. It won't. Or it's going to get stronger to compensate for the weight. Now, the G-force is created on the body, and the pressure changes within the body, and how it's affecting all the internal organs and functions of the body would take me several hours to go through. We don't have time for that. But what I would like to do is share with you a few of the basic exercises that we can all start to benefit from right away. The first is what I call cell aerobics. Nothing magic about the term aerobics. It simply means all the cells of your body need oxygen to burn calories and utilize nutrients. They receive the oxygen from the oxygen delivery system, which we call the cardiovascular pulmonary system. That's made up of your heart, lungs, arteries, capillaries, and veins. So an aerobic exercise is virtually any activity that stimulates this system to more efficient oxygen delivery. Now, most of us know that walking is as good an aerobic exercise as running. It just takes longer. But would this qualify as a good aerobic exercise? And notice the hips. They're allowed to move down into the mat so we can start to loosen the muscles in the lower back without jar or impact. How about this? Does this qualify? So even if I were blind, I could get all the exercise I needed without running into anything or anybody. And I might add that Stevie Wonder is one of my customers. He's got 4 of my units, and he uses them now. How about this? If we want to train for a special athletic event, there's nothing to stop us from doing this. Now, I do this to the count of about 100 every morning, and that's my aerobic exercise. People say you have to do 20 minutes, and the question that I pose to them, oh, really? Do your cells have watches? Do you think 20 minutes means anything to a cell? It doesn't. All you have to do is challenge the cells beyond their current capacity. They're going to start to adapt to the challenge you give them. I do it to the count of 100. It's the intensity, not the amount of time, that makes a difference. If you want to tighten or work this area of the body, you can do the same thing. You just gently tilt. We have a balance bar you can get. Every time I come down, the whole front part of the body is working. Now that's a vigorous aerobic activity, but I left a few things out, such as barking and biting dogs, rain puddles, potholes, carbon monoxide poisoning curbs, rain puddles, and rollerbladers. And you have them here. They jump out of nowhere. A study conducted at the University of Utah concluded that Cellercise eliminates as much as 7/8 of the ballistic impact or jar to the skeletal system compared to running on a hard surface. So we've also reduced and eliminated the concerns of ankle problems, knee problems, shin splints, and lower back problems. And we've replaced some of the negatives of aerobic activity with some of the more comfortable elements, such as being at home with the family, with the radio on, or the television, or simply the air conditioning, which would be nice right now. Okay, let me ask you an important question. How many people need aerobic activity in their lives? How many people need the jar of hitting a hard surface? Thank you. You guys are good. All right, the next exercise is what I call the strength exercise. Now, we generally think of a strength exercise as a muscular activity because that's how we've been taught. For example, if I want to strengthen the bicep, I do some of these. The tricep, the stomach, the back, the arms, the neck. You get the general idea. The purpose is to apply weight to a particular muscle over and over. When you reach a plateau, you simply increase the weight and maintain the repetition so that the muscles will get bigger and stronger. Well, we've already determined that Cellercise is a cellular exercise in that the weight is on the entire musculoskeletal system. So if I wanted to increase the weight while Cellercising, how could I put more weight on this body so the muscles would get bigger and stronger? Yes, jump higher. Higher I jump, the faster I come down. The faster I come down, the more I load the springs. The more I load the springs, the greater the force of deceleration. The greater the force of deceleration, the greater the force of acceleration. You add the increased deceleration with the increased acceleration all at the bottom of the bounce, you have a whole new G-force. I'm not going to repeat that. Just suffice it to say, at that height, I weigh nearly 2 Gs, or twice the gravitational pull of the Earth. It means every cell's got to start to adapt by becoming that much stronger. Because if it didn't, I'd eventually get that much shorter. You get the general idea. You see, all other strength exercises just work muscles, and generally only one muscle group at a time. And while it is important to have strong and healthy muscles, I think you'll agree with me it's more important that we also have strong and healthy connective tissues, ligaments, tendons, bones, skin, and certainly strong and healthy vital organs. Cellercise helps to increase the strength of all of the cells of your body, cell by cell. Okay, I've been saving the best for last. Now here's where I get to be a little more creative. I enjoy this part of the lecture because what I'm about to share with you right now, I don't believe is optional. I think it is the most important physical activity any of us can do every day of our life if we want to live a long and healthy life. And my daughter, my youngest daughter, taught it to me. Isn't it interesting to note that anywhere in the world, when you see a baby stand up in a crib, they have a tendency to hold on to the bar, and what do? Yeah, it's universal. Tell me, does it end in the crib? No, when they get out of the crib, they graduate. Now what do they jump on? What do they jump on now? Yes, the bed or the couch. And what do? We kick them off. You know, if we knew better, we'd be up there doing it with them. That vertical movement's not optional. It's essential. It is what challenges what are called the proprioceptors on the right and left hemisphere of our body, regulating balance, rhythm, timing, dexterity, hand-eye coordination, and the ability of that child to learn faster. But we kick them off, and then they begin to dance. Have you ever noticed how young people dance anywhere in the world? They're bouncing up and down like this all the time. The Aborigines, the Zulus, the Watusis, the Irish, they all incorporate it into their dance. But in our culture, we get to a certain age, and we lose the vertical movement. We begin to live this horizontal existence. And we do it day after day, year after year. Now, if I took a jar of water let's imagine there's a bunch of dirt clods in it, and I walk it around like this all day long, I'm not going to do anything to the dirt clods. They're just going to sit there and accumulate. Stress is the number one killer. Gravity is always pulling down. As gravity pulls down, the blood vessels to the brain start to shrink. Did you know there's up to 300,000 people this year that are going to suffer from strokes? About 130,000 of them are going to die. That's what the statistics. As gravity pulls down, we build up tension in the back. 80% of Americans are going to have lower back problems because of the stress in the back. It pulls down on the vertebral joints, cutting off circulation to the disc. The disc begins to shrink. I failed to mention to you, I have been 5'10" and a half my entire adult life. I'll be 45 in a couple months. We found out 3 years ago I'm now 5'11" and a quarter. I used to stand as high as I could when I was in college, in high school. I didn't grow. You're not supposed to grow when you're in your 40s. But I've been measured by 3 doctors and 1 attorney, so I can say that now. All right. The moment that I get on the Cellerciser, let me show you something. Daniel here? Daniel, where are you? Little Daniel. Danny, where's your son? Is he here? He was there yesterday when I was doing my 10-minute-a-day routine, and he said, David, your blood vessels are pumping as you're moving up and down. They're actually expanding. And I said, you notice that, huh? See, as we walk around during the day, we build up stress or tension in the body. If I flex this arm, I don't know if you can see it on the screen or not, the blood vessel does nothing. It just sits there. Okay? If I do that, it does nothing. It just sits there. If I walk around on the ground, it's doing nothing. It's just sitting there. If hardening of the arteries is the #1 degenerative disease, do you think it's important that we open up the arteries so that we maintain and improve circulation to body parts and functions? I know of no other way you can do it other than what I'm going to show you right now that's really working effectively. If you can see I don't know if you can see it on the arm or not, but as I start to move up and down, can you get a tight shot of that? That blood vessel is pumping as I move up and down. And the movement up and down with those blood vessels pumping are opening up that circulation to all areas of the body, back up to the brain, to the blood vessels of the eye, to the thyroid, to the adrenals, to the endocrine system, to the connective tissues, in between the bones and joints. It breaks up stress and tension. It energizes the body. If you visualize a bunch of cells under stress, they have a tendency to clump together. The moment that I start to move up and down, the pressure changes, break them apart. The cells individually, as you're moving up and down, there's something called a sodium-potassium pump. The sodium-potassium pump literally electrifies and energizes the cell. The cells are positively and negatively charged. They're batteries, and there's energy in those cells. And as you're moving up and down, we are creating energy within the body. But we're detoxifying the cell, and we're improving circulation, oxygen, blood flow, and nutrients to that cell. So the cells are vibrant, alive, and healthy. You're energized. Every morning, I tell people, don't think of Cellercise as something you have to go work at. Get on it for just 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, you are a different person. You feel like a different person. Then you can do the rest of the 8-minute routine. Can you commit to 2 minutes to feel different? It does. It wakes you up. But there's another reason that vertical movement up and down is so vitally important. We all have what's called an immune system. A good portion of that is made up of the lymphatic system, which is a circulatory system that works its way throughout your entire body. But it's a system of tubes that rather than carry blood, it carries lymphatic fluid or water away from the tissue spaces of the body and back in the bloodstream. These tubes begin at the lymphatic terminals. They're located in the toes, the fingertips, and other extremities of the body, and they work their way into or up toward the lymph nodes. It's kind of like the branches of a tree working their way toward larger branches and then the trunk and then into the roots. Well, the movement up and down helps to increase that circulation up to the lymph nodes where the lymphatic fluid is clean, and then larger lymph vessels carry the lymphatic fluid up back toward what's called the thoracic duct, or your largest lymph vessel, and then through the vena cava area through what's called the subclavian left vein, and back into the bloodstream. Now, there's nearly 3 times as much lymphatic fluid in your body as there is blood. So virtually all the cells of the body are surrounded by it. When the lymphatic system is circulating properly, it has the ability to flush or suck out the toxins, poisons, and metabolic waste that accumulate within the body, which lead to stress, distress, breakdown in communication, poor health, pre-aging, degenerative diseases, hypertension, even death. Everybody know what a lymphocyte is? Y'all know who Rambo is, right? Well, your lymphocytes are like your Rambos. They're representative of the 1% of the cells of your body devoted to your civil defense. They're devoted to keeping you alive and healthy. See, the lymphocytes utilize the lymphatic system to move throughout the body, seeking out and destroying viruses, germs, bacteria, fungus, dead cells, mutant cells, cancerous cells, and other foreign invaders of the body. Dr. Arthur C. Guyton, MD, in his book Medical Physiology, points out that if the lymphatic system were to stop circulating for just 24 hours, none of us would be here. Obviously, then, if the lymphatic system is not circulating as well as it potentially can or needs to be, given our current environment and the conditions that we're being exposed to, we're going to be more prone to what? Diseases and illnesses. And according to a number of doctors and lymphologists, if the lymphatic system is circulating as well as it potentially can, it's almost impossible to get sick. Cells, better than any health professional or doctor, know how to create, maintain, and heal the body when we work with them. When I get on the Cellerciser and I start to move up and down like this, the same pressure changes that are opening up the blood vessels are also causing millions of one-way valves in the lymphatic system to create an internal vacuum system of suction that opens up the lymphatic channel so the white blood cells can move through the body freely, seeking out and destroying the viruses, germs, bacteria, fungus, dead cells, mutant cells, cancer cells, and other foreign invaders. See, we don't get that walking around during the day. Everybody, there's no exception, will build up stress or tension in the day. 2 to 3 minutes on the Cellerciser changes the dynamics of the energy and the flow of that energy through the entire body and its functions. We're going to demonstrate that in a minute. I'm going to ask Danny if he'll come up here, because we're going to, if I can get Danny to do it, we're going to give Danny superhuman strength. Oh, okay, you want to do it with your son? Oh, there, Daniel, come here, Daniel. Danny, come on up here. Let's do something. Daniel, I want you to stand up here. Danny, if I can get you to come on up. Come on up here, Dan. Thank you, Daniel. Daniel, you were here. I don't know if you could see it on the video, but you could see the blood vessel expanding as I bounce up and down. Were you able to see it on the monitor? No? Okay. You can see it, right? Would you tell them? Yes, it's really pumping. It's opening up blood vessels throughout the entire body. Okay, Daniel, what I want you to do, thanks, Danny. Daniel, take your hands. I want you to put them up here on your trapezius muscle. I want you to hold on to those muscles with your fingertips. Put your thumb in front. There you go, and grab those muscles. Get a grip on those. These are the muscles that help hold up our posture. They're the muscles where we also get a lot of stress and tension in the body. And that restricts circulation. We get headaches. We have a harder time with balance and equilibrium because we lose circulation or flow. I want you to hold on to those muscles, Daniel. I want you to bounce up and down. And can you feel those muscles expanding and contracting? Yes, you can. He has no choice. At that height, Daniel's taking about 10% of his body weight, putting it on top of him, and he's doing 100 of these a minute. But instead of pushing the weight away from gravity, he's increasing the weight of gravity, and it's not just on these muscles now, it's on the entire musculoskeletal system. I think you're getting the idea. Watch. Daniel, hold on to your shoulders. Grab the muscles right here. I want you to bounce up and down. Can you feel the weight on the muscles? Yes. Yeah, they don't have a choice. They're going to tighten it on. I don't have to lift weight away from gravity, because I know how to increase the weight of gravity, and it doesn't matter to the cells, this weight. But I don't leave out any body parts. You have every cell of the body flexing in unison 100 times a minute. That's pretty intense. Most people can't even do 10 minutes when they begin. Hold on to your biceps with your fingertips. Grab the muscle. I want you to bounce up and down. Can you feel the weight on the muscle? Yes. Yeah? What are they going to do? Either flop to the bottom of the mat, or they're going to have to tighten and tone, and they will. Take your hands, Daniel, stick them around your waist. Grab those stomach muscles in there with your fingertips. Feel the muscles? Bounce them down. Can you feel them working?
Yeah, that is really neat.
Yeah, it is. It is really neat. He's doing 100 sit-ups a minute. That's how many times a minute. The cells are expanding and contracting with weight on them, so the cell fortifies its membrane, remember? 100 sit-ups a minute, 100 of these a minute. He's doing 100 of these a minute. He's giving himself a facial. You don't need it. But the facial muscles will tighten and tone to compensate for the weight that's on him, and the internal organs of his body are moving up and down. What are the connective tissues surrounding the internal organs going to do? They're going to become more resistant. They're going to start to lift, tighten, and tone. One of the reasons boxers do a lot of jump roping. It strengthens from the inside out. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. You bet. Thanks. Okay, Danny, I know you hurt your leg. Are you able to? Okay, I want you to. You're gonna do some pounding on the ground here. Now, you trust Danny, right? Yeah. Danny's not going to tell you wrong. He's going to tell you the honest truth. And I expect it, and I know he will. But I want you to jog on the ground for 20 seconds, kind of pound the ground a little bit. And as he's doing that, I'm going to explain something. Aerobic impact sports create a jarring effect on the body. The jarring effect shatters the nervous system. When you shatter the nervous system, you build up stress or tension in the body. It restricts circulation, and accumulatively, it wears down on the bones, the joints, the vertebral joints, the abdominal rings in men, the uterus in women, the heart. It tears them down. Okay, now I want you to jump up and down a couple times, and you're in a weakened condition anyway. All right, Danny, what I need you to do is sit down right here with your legs going this direction. Okay, he's pretty strong. So I may or may not be able to do this, but I'm going to attempt to push you over. Now, I know you're not a pushover. So I want you to resist. But as I attempt it, I want you to feel how it feels in the stomach, in the quadriceps in the back as I attempt to push you over. Go ahead and cross your arms right like this. Okay, ready? Okay, resist. Okay, feel it? Where do you feel it? Right in here, mostly. Boy, you got your pants the same place I did, didn't you? Yeah, I think, man, I tell you, we're brothers. Come on up. Yeah. All right. Danny, I can push him over, and he feels it here. What was receiving most of the jarring? It was this area of the body. That was the area that was weakest now because of the stress or tension. That didn't take long. Now watch this. Danny, I want you to stand on this, and I want you to jog on that for 20 seconds. That should feel a little different, by the way. As he's moving up and down, at the top of the bounce, he is suspended for a moment, or he's weightless. At the top of the bounce, he's got this pumping action going through his body. That circulation is feeding everywhere, through all the tissue spaces of the body. Every time he comes down at the bottom of the bounce, 75 trillion cells in unison gently decelerate and accelerate. Cells are batteries. They're positively and negatively charged. They create energy. As he's moving up and down, that energy and that circulation is flowing freely through the body without any restriction, so the body can communicate more effectively. All right, how's that feel by comparison? Okay, jump up and down a couple times. Okay, Danny, I want you to gently step down and take the same position. That didn't take long, did it? Watch. Okay, I want you to try just as hard as you did the first time, okay? All right? Okay. Ready? Okay. Resist. Good. Keep resisting. Okay, I can't push him over. I popped a bicipital tendon once trying, not on him, on somebody else. I can't push any harder safely for me. Did you feel the difference?
Totally.
Would you tell them?
Complete difference. Totally. Absolutely.
It's a totally different experience. He is not only strong. If I had weights for him to lift, he would lift more weight the second time than he did the first time.
Amazing.
It doesn't take long, but it makes all the difference in the world to our body parts and functions. Cellercise is taking, again, every cell, and Danny's going to talk about energy today. When you combine the life forces of the nutrients in plant life with Cellercise and the ability of the cells, which are life-giving, to utilize and harness them, thank you, Danny. Thank you. You're creating that energy throughout the entire body. Here's my routine. This is what I do 10 minutes a day. And then we're going to have to do a little special treat. I think we have some time. I'm going to have some people who took the challenge last year and who started to Cellercise. And you're going to hear from them. Some of these are, to me, they're miraculous. You know, I believe as we purify this body, we take the steps to purify the body. As we continue to purify it, the Spirit can sanctify it. And you're going to see some great examples of that, I think, today. Okay, here's my routine. I begin with 2 to 3 minutes of the baby bounce right here. Anybody ever have a hard time sleeping at night? Have you ever noticed a parent with a child who's fussy? They'll often put the child over their shoulder and they gently bounce the baby up and down. They didn't know why they were doing it, it just worked. The movement up and down releases stress and tension in the body. I had a lady in Pasadena, she came running up, threw her arms around me because 6 months before, I showed her what I did if I ever had a hard time sleeping. I didn't realize it was going to make a big difference in her life. But now I teach it all over the country. By doing this for 2 to 3 minutes, relaxing the shoulders, the back, and buttocks, just relax everything, gently up and down. The gentle movement acts as a massage at the cellular level, not just surface muscles, every cell. Releasing stress and tension so the body can sleep. I'll do it for 2 to 3 minutes, go back to sleep, and I'm out like that. It has never failed me. But it's the best way to wake up in the morning, too. This is a wake-up call. This takes the thyroid, the adrenals, and the endocrine system. It takes the liver, kidney, spleen, gallbladder, pancreas, all the internal organs. It wakes them up. It opens up blood vessels. It gets the circulation moving. It's the most important physical activity I teach people we can do, and I start off with 2 to 3 minutes of this every morning. Then I do the aerobics. I count to 100, and you saw I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 100. When I get up to 80, then I'm tired. I slow down a little bit. Then I do my calisthenics. Now, when I began, I had a little double chin. I was growing, and I had a little belly. I didn't like that. I didn't have a bar, a balance bar that we could hold on to, so I held on to a door jamb. And every day I do 40 of these. 1, 2, lifting up the chin. Every time I come down at this angle, the entire body tightens. You see, with a typical sit-up, all you're doing is moving your body weight against gravity, and it's only working a group of muscles here. With the Cellercise, you don't just move your body weight against gravity, you increase the weight of gravity. It's on the entire body, but it's leveraged here about to 25% more than if I just do this. Anybody have love handles? Anybody love them? Never understood that, but I got rid of them, and I did it this way. I do 40 of these every time. 1, 2. That's how I got the obliques. Now again, I'm not really big, but it's tight. It's tight all over the body because every cell is having to work, not just certain body parts, to strengthen the lower back and the buttocks. I can lean forward, hold on to the bar, or from my hips. I just gently kick back this way. Every time I come down, that whole area of the body is flexing. Now I'm going to show you what I believe is the second most important physical activity any of us can do every day of our life if we want to live a long and healthy life. And it's simply this. I had back problems when I began. If you can show the before picture again, if you look at the shoulders, are we able to do that, Christian? Good. If you look at that before picture, look at the upper back. You know, some people look at that and they say I was very toxic. Well, yeah, I'd just been poisoned with a pesticide poison. If you look at the stomach, you know, everything was dropping. The shoulders were dropping. But the back was really creating a lot of problems. Now, you see a lot of trainers do things like this, which is nice for the upper back. But 80% of Americans are told they're going to have problems with the lower back, and I was one of them. And that's what I wanted to work on. So I put my feet at shoulder distance, and I gently rock side to side to begin with. It drops the hips into the mat, very gentle. The muscles are gently stretching. As the muscles become a little more flexible, then I started to do this. As I do this, I take the hips and the vertebral joints and I move them laterally, which take the muscles and gently stretch them. And as I gently stretch them and I pump up and down, I feed more circulation between the vertebral joints to the discs. The doctors believe, well, they call it imbibition or imbibing the disc with more synovial fluid. And that's what they believe attributed a great deal to my height increase. Dr. Jeff Hanks, president or past president of the Utah Chiropractic Association, made a comment. He says, in writing to me, he says, the cerebral spinal fluid pumping action that is created by spinal joint movement is essential to proper brain function and fluid dynamics of the spinal cord. Spinal disc health is bereft without the constant movement of water into and out of the discs themselves. In fact, the disc of the human spine consists of 80% water. This imbibing of water and nutrients in the spinal disc is wholly accomplished by the body's kinetic movements, which act as a pump. Without such movement in the spine, the discs starve literally. They are like a sponge. They begin to shrink. We get more pressure on our nerves, and we have less flexibility in the lower back. Disc herniations and degeneration are highly intensified when improper or inadequate biomechanics of the joints exist. Dave Hall's system goes a long way in inducing and maintaining this most necessary motion in the human body. But as I gently twist side to side and I loosen those muscles, I can work all the way up and down the back, just this way. But you know, I did something else, which really surprised me. It totally changed my digestion and elimination processes completely. If you take, and Danny's got this real good bowel movement one Formula One. And I like to think of it like a washing machine. If you open up the washing machine, you put in the soap, you turn on the water, but you don't turn on the agitator, it's going to go right through the washing machine. But it's not going to do a lot to clean it out, or as much as it could, potentially, as if you turned on the agitator. You see, when I Cellercise, every day I eat. Every day I do a gentle twist. And every day I put the intestines through a little washing machine. It totally changed my digestion elimination process. I have a lady here who started this a year ago. She started to do this movement. She called me up several months later, and she said, David, I just had to let you know. When I was doing this, prior to doing that, I had to take Dr. Richard Schultz's products in order to go to the bathroom. She said, I started to do this, and I don't have to take any outside sources anymore. Is that powerful? But it does something else. Now, you add those, if you add the bowel movement or formula to your diet and you move up and down like this, now you've got the detergent. I mean, you're going to break up the mucous membrane lining that happens to accumulate. In fact, Dr. Larry Stowe made a comment with respect to my program, which I thought was very interesting. He says, the effect of the digestive tract is also very important. It is difficult, if not impossible, to exercise the smooth muscles in the intestinal tract. These muscles are very important to the elimination of waste from the digestive tract. Again, because of the unique physics behind the exercise, even these muscles can receive a daily tune-up with Cellercise. Efficient functioning of the digestive tract requires that the smooth muscles be able to contract forcefully enough to push the digestive products and waste material through the system. While not perhaps a glamorous claim to make about your equipment, he says it is critical in how the body functions. The force exerted inside the body can also serve to help mechanically break up the mucus lining, which often starts to form with age, coating the intestinal tract and hindering absorption of the nutrients. So as I gently twist side to side, I break up the food within the intestines. I increase digestive enzymes through the food and the ability of the body to absorb nutrients through the wall of the intestinal tract. But I do something else. I take the liver, the kidney, the spleen, the gallbladder, the pancreas, all of the internal organs, and what am I doing when I do this every day? I'm putting them through a little massage. I'm breaking up stones, blockages, stimulating and improving the efficiency of the internal organs. I'm going to tell you something that's really exciting to me. And then I'm going to show you how some women lost all the cellulite in their legs in 2 to 3 weeks. So don't go away. Okay. I was in San Jose several years ago. I've been Cellercising for at least 3 years. This great big tall gentleman came by. His name was Dr. Lawrence. And prior to his coming by, I had been at a show, and there was a chiropractor across from me. And this chiropractor kept saying, David, the proof's in the blood, go get your blood tested. Well, it's Friday night. There's people all around. I can't leave my booth to go get my blood tested, and so I didn't. But all weekend long, I kept hearing him say, I'd believe it if you could verify it with the blood. So it was kind of this little needling going on constantly, and I'm, okay. Well, Sunday night comes along, and this great big tall guy comes over, and he gets on the Cellercise, and he starts to jump up and down. He says, do you mind if I use this for a moment? And I said, no, feel free. He says, I've been sending people over to you all weekend long so I could get good circulation, so I could do a real good blood analysis. I said, oh, you do that? He said, yes. So I said, well, the chiropractor across the way has been after me to get this done. Do you have time to do one more? He says, sure, come on over. So I went over to his booth. He did the little finger prick and put the blood on the little dish and stuck it under the microscope. It was very interesting. And he's taking a look at it, and he says, can you wait here a moment? And I said, sure. So he goes out, and he grabs all of his colleagues. He brings them all over, and he says, I want you guys to look at this guy's blood. And he says, this is almost picture perfect. This is the best blood of anybody I've seen here all weekend long other than my own. And I said, oh, that's great. And I said, what do you do? And he says, well, you see all these products? And he had this row after row of all these different products, $300 a month worth of products that he was taking to keep his blood and his body healthy. He says, what do you do? I said, I Cellercise and I take some ionic minerals or electrolytes. What else? Nothing. That's it. You're kidding. No, I wasn't. A year goes by. The very first person, when I went back, the very first person over to my booth was Dr. Lawrence. And he said, do you remember me? I said, how can I forget? I've been telling everybody what you told me. He says, well, I came by to pick up one of your units. I can't afford $300 worth of products anymore a month. It's a true story. You know, let me show you the thighs and the knees. I'm in New York last year, and prior to this lady approaching me, the record for getting rid of all the cellulite in the legs was 3 weeks. And I thought, that's phenomenal. And this lady in New York comes over and she says, David, I got to let you know. And she's very excited. She says, I got rid of all the cellulite in just 2 weeks. I couldn't believe it. And I said, really? I said, wow. And she said, I did just what you told me. And she gets on the unit and she shows me. I said, I didn't show you that. She misunderstood me. But she's taught me something, and now it's what I do. One of the things that we can do to strengthen the thighs and the knees is to sit down like this and just push down into the mat. As we push down into the mat, the springs absorb the jarring, not the knee. As the thighs and knees get stronger, we can sit down further, so we can regulate the amount of weight by how far we sit down or how high we stand up. Well, what she did is she started to do this, but then she took it a step further and started to do this. She did 40 of these until her legs were like jello, and then she'd stand up and do this. And while she was watching her favorite TV show, once the burning went away, she'd go right back at it again. It's very intense. I now do that every morning. To work the hips, the inner outer thigh, and the lateral knee, I stand on one side of the mat and I step back and forth. Now, there's very few exercises that will do this, or work those sides of the knee. I gently hop side to side. As I get stronger, I can sit down further. Or if you're a skier, you can do it like this. It's the same burn feeling you would have if you were on the slopes. I end up with a gentle baby bounce. Now, for those who are diehards, as far as this ab thing is concerned, I got my abs this way. Okay, that's how I did it. But I've been teaching a way that is much more intense. And I have to hurry because I want you to see a remarkable event with a lady who started this last year and with a debilitating hip problem. This is it. You start off, you progress into this. I keep my back straight, put my hands by my hips. I start to bounce up and down like this. I take away my hands. The only reason that I'm still moving is because of the stomach muscles right here. As those muscles get stronger, I can lean back just a little bit and lift up one leg. I just leveraged the weight right here in the lower abdomen where everybody wants to work. I can turn the leg to work the inner or outer thigh. When that leg gets tired, I can lift up the other leg. You don't have to work hard on this. It'll work hard on you. Just play on it. But eventually, you'll become strong enough you can lift up both legs. And then you start to bounce higher. This is all being done right here with the stomach muscles. As they continue to get stronger, then you can go cheek to cheek. And now you're working the obliques, both sides of the stomach wall. This is the most intense, and I don't know of any sit-up that will come close to working those stomach muscles like Cellercise. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. You know, I told Danny the other day, Danny, I want to see 300 new people on this. It really doesn't matter. If I can only find one person, and I can help that one person, that is why I'm here. God gave me the ability to find that one person, and the ability to share something that's going to make a difference in their life. Your cells, through the moving up and down, get stronger. They become more vibrant. They become energized. They open up circulation, and they strengthen, tighten, and tone as part of a 10-minute-a-day routine. Now, people say, how can you do it in 10 minutes? I ask them a real simple question. If I increase the weight to this muscle 100 times a minute for 10 solid minutes, would anybody argue that's a great exercise for that muscle? Nobody. Nobody would. Well, I don't have time to put weight on all these different body parts. Cellercise applies the weight to the entire body, to every cell over 100 times a minute. It totally changed my life around. My digestion elimination processes are great. My health is wonderful. I am so grateful for that. Most people only use the first 2/3 of their lung. Watch. Unless you go out and do a lot of long-distance running, how do you open up the bronchial tubes in the lungs? How do you activate the lymphatics through the chest cavity? by bending at the knee and moving up and breathing in and coming down and breathing out, I open up the bronchial tubes in the lungs dramatically. I did. It goes just like this. I'll do about half a dozen of them. You do more than that, you might get a little dizzy. That's a lot of oxygen into the bloodstream. It opens up the bronchial tubes in the lungs. When you first start to do it, your lungs and bronchial tubes will be sensitive. It takes about a week to 2 weeks for that to clear out. And you'll clear stuff out of your lungs. You will. I do that every morning. But that's kept my lungs healthy and my capacity to breathe healthy. I'd had pneumonia several times when I was a child. They did a study, not a study, they should do a study. I had an insurance agent. This is the last thing I'll say, and then we've got to have some people come up. I had an insurance agent, Eric Thorkelson, come by my house a couple months ago, and I needed to get an insurance policy for my business. And he said, David, the best rate that we can get you is ultra preferred. That's the lowest, cheapest cost, but you've got to really be in great health to get that. And frankly, I have never, ever been able to get anybody your age ultra preferred. We can probably get you preferred because you're in good shape. And I said, no, Eric, I want to go ultra preferred. Let's try it. Well, he did, and I found out, and they did the EKGs and the blood tests, and they tested the whole body, and it was a real comfort to me when he called me up. He says, David, you did it. You got ultra preferred. My blood pressure, my metabolism, they said, was that of a 19-year-old. Everything's working. I can do things that I haven't done since I was 19, if I could even do it then. Cellercise is remarkable. Now we're going to have some people. We got about 10 minutes, and I'm going to ask some of the people who. Is it Francois? Are you here? Watch this. Come on up. Last year, she was having a very difficult time walking. I want her to tell you her story. And here we go. Oh, it's warm up here. Go ahead and tell them your story.
Well, first off, this morning I volunteered to work in the kitchen, and I work from 9 to 1. It's very intense in the kitchen with all this crowd, and you stand up the whole time. And that's what I did. Now, a year ago, I could not stand for 1 hour, not even half an hour, without having to sit down or do something else. When I came to this seminar last year, I was pretty crippled. My back was kind of like this, and my hip was hurting all the time. And of course, I had been taking the MS and the glucosamine, all this kind of stuff, and I was not willing to take this kind of food supplement for the rest of my life. So when I came here and found this, I said, I'm going to try it. So I bought the Cellercise, and it was the best investment I did for my health. It's absolutely wonderful. I follow exactly what you told us to do every single day, or just about. And it's just amazing. No more pain, no more crippling back. I can garden, I can do my cooking class without having to sit down, and I teach health classes. So it's been absolutely fabulous. I can sit here and do it too.
Let them see. Is that great? Thank you so much. Thank you, Francois. We've got a couple others. Who else wanted to come up? I asked to come up. Come on, don't be shy. There you go. Oh, Vaughn. Okay, Vaughn, come on up, Vaughn. Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming up. And then we've got a gentleman who just shared, he just handed me a testimonial. Thank you. That is beautiful. I've read part of it. He had a very serious injury, pain in his jaw, from a bad fall right after he had left the crusade last year. And if you would like to come up and share a little bit about what this has done for you, I'd appreciate having you do so. It's for the benefit of the people that are here.
Well, I'm excited. For 35 years I went around overweight. In 1997, we followed the McDougall plan, and we lost a lot of weight. I walked 7 miles a day, and in an hour and 40 minutes, that's a good walk. I couldn't lose any more weight. For 11 years, I packed around all this extra weight. And I said, I guess, God, I'm just bound to be this way. But you know, he sent two very special men into my life last year. David being one and Dr. Lee being the other. And I had tried the Progest before, and I figured that's a bunch of baloney, but I became convicted I needed to try it along with the Cellerciser. 1 year ago, I was 40 pounds, 45 pounds heavier, wearing a size 16 dress. I'm in a 10. Never in my life wore a 10. I just praise the Lord. I'll tell you what, there's one thing you women who've had children should know. You laugh, you sneeze, you cough. Sounds gross, but you pee your pants. It's just something you do. The muscles get weak. I had 4 children in one every year, 4 years. Within less than 1 week, I had no more problem with that. That was a side effect I didn't know would happen. So, you know, the Lord is good, and it's just been wonderful, and we just are thankful for David.
Thank you, Vaughn. Thanks so much. Thank you. You have all meant a great deal for me this year, or to me. This lady here, same thing. After only 3 days, I was able to Cellercise for 10 minutes with urinary control. Prior to that, she could not. With no high jumping, just light jumping. After 1 week, I was able to Cellercise fast and hard, high, with full urinary control. I can go longer periods of time without having to find a bathroom. And I know I no longer lose urinary control when I sneeze. It is totally amazing to me. You know, this is Gloria. And it's very common. Cellercise is one of the only exercises that applies weight to the sphincter muscle as you jump up and down. And over time, when you apply weight to a muscle, what does it do?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Wanda, and I'm from Cholo, Arizona. And I want to tell you today that I've been using my Cellerciser for approximately 4 months. Now, Kay Bankin is the one that told me about it. And when I first heard about this, I was a little bit skeptical because I thought, oh, this is just one of these other arrangements of trying to get a form of exercise, and I felt like my walking was sufficient. Well, when I was in my 40s, I started to run my first marathon, and I have run 5. But I can honestly say that the Cellerciser is the only thing that has worked for me. And it is not that I needed to lose any weight or anything, but I like the toning aspect of it, the time condensing that I didn't have to get out when it was raining. I could relax in my room with my music and go to town on the jiving music. And, you know, I feel so much better. I just feel like God has really blessed me. And, you know, some people think, well, maybe it's too expensive. But the amount of money, I am worth it, because God has given me my health and a blessing that He says that I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health. And you know, folks, you owe it to yourself to try it. And it really works.
Thank you. You know, we give 30-day money-back guarantee. I'm not up here to sell. People often have to beat it out of me. How much does it cost? How much does it cost? I just want you to get results. But in 3 weeks, the mitochondria within every cell, if you follow my program, will start to increase. Your energy level will begin to soar. It happens with virtually anybody. It has nothing to do with age. Thanks, Kay.
Hi, I'd like to talk to all you people that don't like to exercise, because I do not like to exercise. And last year, when I saw David up here, I said, you know what? I can do 10 minutes a day. I can. And I started doing it. I do it almost routinely. I've probably sold and given. I can't even count the number. David and I and his secretary became very good friends. We talk on the phone so much. But you know what? You can do 10 minutes a day. You can exercise every cell in your body 10 minutes a day. That way you have no excuse when the wind's blowing. I hate to walk in the wind. When it's raining. When you don't have time to get on your clothes and your tennis shoes to go walk. You know, I would just say with Wanda, you really owe it to yourself. Exercise has to be part of our health program. And if there's any way you can, take one home or order it. You'll never regret it. Thanks.
Thanks, Kay. Steve Hartman writes, he says, David, it's been everything you said it would be and more. We keep it right in our TV room. And my wife and my 3 boys jump on it daily. One of the things I really like about it is that even if you don't feel like motivated some days, when you get on it and just start with the health bounce, before you know it, I just get going, and 10 or 15 minutes just fly by. We have time for one more. Danny? 5 minutes. We have time for one more. Come on up.
Hi, my name's Nancy. I'm from the Bay Area, and I bought one last year, and I went home and started Cellercise, and I wasn't going to tell anybody. I thought if this thing really worked, people would start asking me what I was doing. Within the first 3 weeks, I probably lost 5 inches, and after that, I haven't lost so much inches, but about a month and a half into it, my massage therapist asked me what I was doing because all of my muscles were toning up. And she does massage therapy for the UC's Berkeley swim team that went and won the gold medals at the Olympics. And so she was wanting to know what I was doing so she could get the swim coach to get it for his swimmers, and she's still working on him, but she has sold more of these things. She hasn't bought one herself because she didn't have the money, but she had, just on working on me, she tells everybody at work to go see Nancy Stevens because I'm in great shape from the Cellercise, and she just keeps referring people, and people keep buying them, and she hasn't even been able to buy one yet. But anyway, I took it to Texas with me, and we had a family reunion of about 40 or 50 people. The 3-year-old, we had a regular rebounder and the Cellerciser, and the 3-year-old liked it better because she could bounce higher. The 10-year-old liked it better because it didn't hurt when he bounced. And everybody just liked it better. There was just no comparison. Anyway, I've enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thanks very much. You know, I read some of these testimonials. I was reading them the other day to find out, which ones did I want to bring forward, because we have so many of them at the booth, and you're welcome to read through them. There might be one that touches you. But I was choked up. I mean, I had tears in my eyes just reading those, because that's the reason I'm here, is just to teach a whole new methodology of exercise that's going to revolutionize the way that we are able to enjoy our health. I contend, here's my closing thoughts. I contend that if your body could communicate to you in a way that we could understand it, that we would wake up every morning, get out of bed, walk into the bathroom, look in front of the mirror, and on our forehead it would read, "Please shake well before using." Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
We hope you have enjoyed this presentation and have gained a blessing from the information contained in it. From all of us here at Modern Manna Ministries, may God richly bless you.